I felt the lights burning down on me. The conference room at the Westin downtown was overbright, air stale with stale coffee and the tension of a dozen unsaid tells. I was already sweating, my stomach a pit. I could sense the rows of faces in front of me, business casual, some jaded, some simply bored, some already caught in their own screens. My shoes squeaked on the polished stage as I stood before the white screen, clicker limp in my hand. "Thank you for coming," I started, my voice catching. I saw my mother's face in the third row. She wasn't hard to spot, out of place, her coat too bright, her lips pursed tight the way they always did when I disappointed her. My Uncle Jerry was beside her, arms folded, smile twitching on his lips. I was here to pitch. Not for a startup, not an app, not a carbon capture utility or 3D printed algae, but something less bankable. A dance studio for underserved teens, rooted right in East Van, giving space to the kind of wild, ambitious movement I'd taught myself in secret. A place for kids who'd learned rhythm on the streets, beats in hallways, flow from YouTube clips and bedroom mirrors. "I want to talk about where I came from," I said. The slide behind me flicked to a photo of our grimy apartment building, snowy dusk pressing on windows, and about how I learned to dance in a place where you're not supposed to stand out. Someone in the middle yawned, covered his mouth. My uncle let out a breath that was almost a laugh. I tried to power through, but the words tangled. All my careful rehearsal dissolved under the lights. "Movement is hope. It saved me. My voice shrank. "I want to build a home for it." I saw for a flicker my mom mouthing the words to my uncle. So impractical, wasting her time. Embarrassment crawled over my skin. The slide advanced to a list of potential programs: open jams, workshops, after-school sessions, mentorships. I opened the floor. There was a long silence. An investor with silver hair finally leaned forward. "Why dance?" she asked, voice mild. "Especially in this economy." Maybe she meant to give me an opening, but it sounded like a door closing. "It's about more than dance," I tried. It's about believing you can reinvent yourself. It's a path. Kids out there," I faltered, seeing the stone faces. "Most of them just want a place. Most have never even set foot in a studio. I didn't for years. This is for us." A stilted pause. Someone typed on a laptop. Someone else coughed. My mother looked at her shoes. "Thank you," the host said too brightly. "That's all the time we have." I staggered off stage, feeling that unique hollow that hits after true humiliation. The rejection hung in the air, fuzzy and sharp all at once. As I slunk down to the back hall, my uncle caught up with me. "Ambitious," he said, tone maddeningly neutral. "People want results, not dreams. You should think about starting smaller, or maybe finding something more realistic." His words strung but didn't surprise me. Mom just hugged me wooden. "You tried," she said, eyes flickering away. I left that ballroom cold and silent, with my dreams smaller than before, heart raw and sore. The months that followed were grey and mean. I took temp jobs, barista at a bakery over in Commercial, then a grunt at a moving company, then nothing for a long while. Dance had become a private shame, something mentioned in the same tone as a failed diet or faded tattoo. "What's still at that?" Mom asked. "Maybe it's time to let the past go," but when I could, I danced. Sometimes late at night in an alley behind the building, cracking my knuckles in the blue dark. Or in the cramped apartment living room, shoeless so my mother wouldn't hear. The only friends who got it were online: a kid in Surrey who braked at the SkyTrain station, a girl in Richmond learning whacking from Instagram. In person, it was shrugs and jokes. "What's the plan?" Dance at people for bus fare. The worst was the feeling of being a burden. Every Sunday roast, I'd catch the family's sidelong glances as Uncle Jerry grinned, our artist, like it was a trick, not a truth. Auntie Rosa gave job leads. "They need someone at the bank, sweetheart, pays well." My little cousin gasped. "Wait, you actually perform?" I swallowed their laughter and the heat in my face. Sometimes in the tiny hours I nearly agreed with them. Maybe this is all a waste, but something stubborn lived in me, a grain of steel under the skin. I could feel it when I moved, when I ran through routines in front of the flickering TV. In those moments, every cell of my body knew this was what I was for, even if no one else saw it. Time scrolled on. I scraped together odd gigs, joined a crew for a street show near Kitts Beach, fell in with a teaching group at an after-hours rec center. It wasn't glamorous. Vancouver winters are hard on buskers, but I learned what worked and what didn't. My break came, fittingly, by accident. A community center director saw me coaching a bunch of rowdy kids through an improvised hip-hop sequence. She waited until the last kid dumped their coat and tumbled out the door, then handed me a torn, official-looking page. "We've got no budget for a real teacher," she said, "but you've got their attention and they come back for you. Ever think of running a program? I can get a small grant." It sounded too good to be true. For a week, I waited for her to forget. When the call came, I thought I'd misheard. I worked mornings in warehouses, afternoons in community rooms. I designed flyers, stuck them to lampposts, bribed wiry neighborhood kids to spread the word. My first class was 3 kids, 1 in flip-flops, 2 in battered sneakers. I brought a battered Bluetooth speaker and music from home. Tuesday turned to Thursday, then Friday, and by month's end, the rec room was packed. Some kids just watched, arms folded, pretending not to care, but they came back. I taught them how to fall safely, how to bounce back, how to let the beat pull them through. I worked with what I had: no mirrors, barely any mats, only a patchy sound system and chipped linoleum. But those handful of hours each week built into something. The city heard, a local paper came. There was a slice of me in every kid who learned to slide through shame, who left the room glowing instead of small. One day a girl named Mila asked, "You ever gonna stop showing up or what?" It was the highest compliment I'd ever gotten. The word about what we did in that rec room slid through the city. I got a call from a festival organizer. Could we do a set as a youth ensemble? I agreed, not knowing how I'd pull it off. Kids texted for the playlist, begged for extra practice. After our first show at that festival, a director from an arts nonprofit found me backstage, nervously cramming our props into an IKEA bag. "You've got something I haven't seen in a long time," she said. Raw hope. "Parents ask for more. Come meet my board." I did. I didn't pitch, not like that Westin flop, but told stories from the floor, let them watch video clips on my second-hand phone. They agreed: funding, space, a year's commitment. Suddenly, I had keys to a converted storefront on Kingsway and the makings of an actual office. I hung up our first posters with trembling hands. What followed was a swirl. Kids pouring in, dance-offs, parent meetings, city council forms, volunteers, paperwork. I choreographed 3 showcases in one frantic year. Socials lit up. A doc filmmaker asked to follow us. My inbox exploded. I did it all on 5 hours sleep, living mostly on ramen and adrenaline, but I grinned through the exhaustion. But there was a catch. Family still didn't see. When I invited them to a show, Mom said, "It's so far." "Maybe next time," my uncle replied. "Soon, champ." I recognized the gentle disbelief in their voices. You escape your background, but the weight of it hitches a ride. 3 years passed between that disastrous Westin pitch and the morning everything changed. I was waking to the buzz of my phone. At first, I thought it was a bill collector, then listened to the voicemail. "Hi, this is Sandra Park from the city of Vancouver. You've been nominated for Community Changemaker. We also have an invitation for you to present at the City Arts Gala. Please call back." I sat on the edge of my rumpled mattress, body tingling and numb. I called back. They explained, full stage at the Queen Elizabeth Theatre, all expenses covered. They wanted a showcase. Our kids, my kids, would finally perform for real. I told Mom over tea. Her laugh when it finally broke out was quiet, bewildered. "That's real?" she asked. "You mean the whole city?" I nodded. She looked away, dabbing at her eyes. "Should I call everyone?" she asked. Gala night arrived, October air crisp, city blazing with light. The Queen Elizabeth glowed golden against the dark, a place I'd walked past hundreds of times but never entered. As we got ushered backstage, I glimpsed into the audience. 3rd row aisle seat, my mother in her best coat pressed heartbreakingly neat, Uncle Jerry next to her and Auntie Rosa, little cousin fidgeting beside them, old neighbors. Even my first-grade teacher. The stage was vast, a black sea. But for the first time I only felt the calm before a storm, not the panic. My company, 16 teens, each in their own wild colors, circled up backstage, grinning and shivering. "What if I mess up?" whispered Mila, now taller than me. "Then we all mess up together," I said, "but we won't." "Ready?" She snorted, wiped her palms and grinned. Someone started a beat on their thigh. We slipped into place. The curtain rose. It's odd what you see in 12 minutes of motion, how the world shrinks to sound, spotlight, the feeling of other bodies moving in sync. I saw nothing and everything, Mila hitting her locking with perfect sharpness. Dave, once so sullen, smiling as he landed his flip. Zoe, shyest of all, caught in a swirl of light spinning free. The music cut, and in the final hush we landed together, falling into the pose we'd practiced until our knees ached. Lights flooded the stage. For a heartbeat there was only silence, then a sound like a wave. The crowd roared to its feet, richer, deeper than any applause I'd ever heard. Overheads and rising up out of the dark, I saw my mother, arms up, face awash with tears. Uncle Jerry's hands blazing with applause, mouth open, shouting. I bowed, legs shaky. Our company stumbled off stage, weeping and laughing. I knelt and hugged them all in. For once, words vanished. I saw myself in that Westin conference so long ago, knees trembling in a rented suit. And now here, 10 minutes later, we stood in the green room, illuminated by cheap fluorescents and squealing parents. My mother pressed into the crowd, breathless, arms around me. You did it, she whispered. Not just me, I answered into her coat, all of us. At that moment, the city arts director swept in. She gestured to the staff and a crested plaque gleamed in her hands. This, she announced, goes to the person whose vision has changed not just the city, but hundreds of young lives. To our changemaker for Movement Hope Homes. I held the plaque stunned. My uncle came, hesitated for just a second, then hugged me hard. In my ear, I was wrong. I'm damn proud of you. For some reason, I thought back to my first pitch, shame reddening my cheeks. Remembered sitting on crates in back alleys, moving for the joy of it, for the need when no one else believed. And now, the proof was everywhere. In shouts from the stage, in the wild, impossible applause of people who finally saw. Later that night, after the crowd departed, I slipped outside, pulling my coat tight, exhaling until the fog hung heavy in the glow of city lights. My phone filled with messages, old friends reaching out, names I hadn't seen in years. I let the silence fill me. The next day, life would return to budgets, schedules, kids wrestling in the halls, paperwork and funding calls. But in this moment, I was neither that lost kid nor the prodigal success. I was simply myself, standing between the old shadows and something irreversibly new. I walked back inside. My family waited, bundled in their coats, faces lit up, pride finally unguarded. For the first time, I felt no gap between us. Their skepticism hadn't vanished, it had become awe, not because I'd proved them wrong. Because I'd come back whole and unbroken with something beautiful to share. So when we finally stepped out into the damp Vancouver night and turned for home, I reached for their hands. The city pulsed around us, alive and washed clean. And inside me, the old ache was gone, replaced by the certain, hard-won beat of hope.